Welcome back to the Hishaku Hideout, a weekly podcast where we talk about the latest chapter and everything Kagurabachi. I'm here with Dice.
Yo.
And today we're getting into chapter 82. And who the hell does Uruha think he is asking, like, who's going to stop Samura? Like, motherfucker, not you. What do you can't, even if you could get up, you're just a regular swordsman now, homie. Like, you along with the rest of us. Like, where does he get off thinking he's going to stop Chihiro? Samura. Like, it's like that meme where got the hand on the shoulder meme, you know? It's that.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you type of meme.
Facts.
Come on, man. He's just worried about the situation. He wishes he could do something. Come on. Poor guy.
True, yeah. I mean, like, Uruha's a good dude. And, you know, we do cut back in the very beginning of the chapter. We see the conversation between Samura, Chihiro, and even Ro pops up and grabs a Kumiyuri.
Yeah. I thought that was worthy to see. You know, there was mention of the sheath falling 2 stories below, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, we were wondering if that's going to come into play, you know, but we can get into that a little bit later. But yeah, you know, Ro has got the Kumiyuri and will possibly be looking for that sheath. So we'll see where that takes us.
And Samura's not even like tripping. I mean, obviously, like, Samura's just a fucking juggernaut. You know, it's like Ro has the Kumiyuri in hand. Like, he can't, you know, the contractor's still alive with Hirohiko, of course. But Samura's like not even tripping. He's like, if I want that bitch, I'll just go take it from his little ass.
Yeah.
Like, Samura's just like, one thing about Samura is I get like, he's very confident. He believes that he's kind of like worked through all the steps of his plan and the possibilities of you know, what could happen and the fallout. Because we see later in the chapter, we'll discuss it, about him just kind of shutting the door, you know, and literally and symbolically to, you know, any reason.
Yeah.
You know, we see like Chihiro's like asking, Mr. Uruha is alive, isn't he?
Yeah, no, like Chihiro's putting the pieces together of what, you know, Samura's plan actually has been. And yeah, you know, to what you're saying, Samura's had 18 years to not just own Suzaku, like we find out later, or, you know, we've known, but it's re-emphasized this chapter. So it's also 18 years of unwavering determination, you know, so he's had enough time to kind of play this out in his head over and over, you know. So I'm not too surprised of his attitude and stubbornness, you know, because it is essentially that, you know, we get where it's coming from, but that's what it is.
Do want to mention real quick, I'd say he probably he had 18 years to, like, you know, I guess hone his understanding of like Tobimune, even though he didn't have Tobimune in hand. But I will say he's only really thought of this plan in the past, 3 years? Because that's what it was when Yura first appeared to him. So, like, he's really been thinking of this for 3 years, like the plan itself.
No, you're 100% valid in kind of calling that out, because you're right.
You know, so, but I mean, that's still a long time. That's still a long time to sit at a temple and stew on, you know, what, you know, if I have to wield Tobimune again, what are my plans? Like, what's the play? But he's very his you know, it's like everything is hubris. Like, he's just so confident, and I think that's gonna be his downfall, because, or maybe not. I don't want to get into that just yet, because there's a lot of things that we could talk about later on with how the chapter ends. But I mean, just moving forward from their talk, you know, basically it just kind of reconfirms the things that we already, you know, we're pretty sure were true. You know, it kind of just recontextualizes all of our theories. Uruha coming back with Suzaku, like, it logically makes sense. It stepped out. The breadcrumbs are there, you know?
Yeah, no, well, for sure. For the people that have, you know, been swearing on his return, this is it. You know, we get most of this chapter is pretty much a flashback of, you know, Uruha's inner thoughts and just kind of that whole process, right? So to me, it was nice to see that a little more fleshed out after last chapter. So, you know, this is definitely good to see. And it does, add more to Samura's character as well, because though I am a bit mixed, and to be fair, I've been mixed on Samura since the beginning of this arc. Like I said, I've previously said that I believe he's taken the story in a really interesting direction with this arc. But him as a character, and like understanding his motivations, and like I said, just the stubbornness, which I get where it comes from, but I don't know. I don't know. And we'll dive deeper into this a little bit later. But essentially, the flashback is nice to see. It's nice to see like Uruha also realize Samura's plan. And like you joked early in the video, the first thing he thinks of essentially is like, oh shit, who's gonna deal with Samura then? But ultimately that leads us back to Chihiro.
I think we're kind of like the oddballs of the fandom. Neither of us like hate Samura, but I think that we do have like our own issues with his motivations or the way he's going about it. Not that they're like illogical or they break the story. I think they just don't hit for us the same as everyone else. I do like his dynamic with Iori, like that. It's a continued parent-child dynamic that happens through every arc in Kagurabachi. And I think theirs is very unique because he wants to be a good dad, but like he can't let go of the guilt of the past, and to be honest, the troubled past, he can't let go. It's even worse because Yura's bringing it back to the present time. Yura's bringing it to his attention again, saying it's going to happen. So he's real, like it's like double trauma, and now he just wants to protect Iori. So I get all that, and that's cool. And Uruha coming back, like it makes sense, but just because it makes sense doesn't mean that it's like the best thing for the story. I don't think it hurts the story, but I'm kind of indifferent on it personally. I can go through a bunch of different scenarios as to why. Like he says, the only one about to die is the hero version of you. But when he's brought back, like the people in the Kabanabi barrier, they don't know the situation. So those people who have nothing to do with the war are still going to look at Uruha as a hero. And they're going to throw their lives on the line for Uruha. So that would be like the people, the innocent people giving up their life to protect the hero again. Like that's just like one surface level. But like I said, I don't hate it. I just don't love it.
Yeah, and I think it's neat that you bring that up, because we all know what Samura means when he says that the hero version of you is gonna die, right? And I still hadn't looked at it from like other people's perspectives though, because this is a conversation between sword bearers, right? So from within the circle, that's like how I was seeing it, right? Because essentially what we thought originally was that Samura believed they all deserved to, pay for their sins, right? So I understood where he was coming from that angle, but I think you shared a neat perspective from kind of like an outsider sense, and it's, I think with like, a lot of Hokazono's decisions in this arc have kind of led me to just really let him cook, because I'm still really enjoying this story despite me thinking that a lot of stuff would have gone differently. I'm not really like upset by anything, nor disappointed, nor has it even waived my enjoyment of the story. Like I genuinely mean that. Samura as a character, like I don't know if this makes him more or less flawed. And to me, like I like that I get to have that kind of conflict in terms of not knowing how to feel about him. I'm really stammering and kind of like struggling to express myself, because though it's hard for me to like express how I feel in regards to this character and where we might be headed, I think the fact that I don't know what to expect really has me like more intrigued, if it makes sense. So yeah, like, Samura, the way I feel about him as a character aside, like you said earlier, I think he's been great for the story.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, let Hokazono cook. Because the truth is, it is too early to tell. if, Uruha coming back is good for the story or not. We don't know where Hokazono's taking this. This is just a like headcanon what if scenario that I don't think will happen. But bringing Uruha back, what if he experiences an even worse death now? What if he's used and manipulated or something like that, and it like causes him more harm, more pain? What if he would have just rather stay dead, like in that scenario, if that was the case after the fact? Like there's so many different routes Hokazono can take this, and like I said, I don't think he's going that route. But Samura, I don't think is thinking of like that. What Uruha's gonna do after he's revived. You know what I mean? I don't think Samura's thinking of that.
I don't think it matters to him.
True. Yeah, he's just doing his part to like basically allow him to be able to kill his sword master. So it's just basically him and the sword master will die. You said it best though. Just let Hokazono cook. And like it's such a nebulous concept almost. Like Samura is a very like intriguing character to just think about. He's like, you go many different ways with his character. There's a bunch of different dynamics. Him from the war, him with his child, him with Chihiro, him as a villain, him as a hero. You can go so many different ways. That's why it's hard, I think, to like try and get his character in a complete thought right now, because there's still a lot to find out. We do get to see, like, it does cut back to Chihiro and Samura, and we finally get to see them fight. Of course, Hokazono cooks, boy.
Yeah, no, the way that whole fight is set up, once again, we get the return of the famous Hokazono fisheye lens style, which once again, he does that just masterfully, honestly. We've praised him before in terms of like fight choreography and his unique way to convey that, but also his creativity. Here we, like you said earlier in this episode, there's a door right between them, right? Like Samura just he fucking throws Chihiro inside the hotel room, and the door closes between them, and we see them both kind of like get in stance and unsheath their enchanted blades, and it's cold, man. And Chihiro gulps because he understands the gravity of the situation and who he's going up against. And the fact that like Samura picks up on that and like immediately uses that as like the opening, so cool, man. I have no doubt that this fight is going to be absolutely insane. The double spread the chapter ends on is reminiscent of that fight with Sojo, the tea time kind of double spread. So hey, man, any callback to Sojo I'll take. So this is gonna be an awesome fight, man.
Yeah, Samura, he shuts the door in between them, figuratively and symbolically, like I said earlier, because he's shutting himself off to the ideas of, Chihiro's trying to reach him by saying there's other ways we can do, we can do this, we could do that, and Samura's like, can you stop the malediction? And I mean, not to plug my own shit here, but my N10 theory video is basically like, and I dropped that 2 weeks ago, about how the whole point of N10 is to battle the enchanted blades like within a public space and minimize damage, and its main purpose is to basically be able to stop the malediction, through Akka, which I think we will see Akka in a couple chapters. I do believe that. It's interesting. They're now above like innocent civilians. What would Samura do if he actually kills an innocent civilian himself by like collateral damage?
No, yeah, that's crazy to wonder. It makes you think if that would be the one thing to make him waver on what he's doing. If what he's done ultimately leads to the more death of innocent people or innocent people getting harmed, that might be the one thing to make him kind of second guess the path he's chosen. So interesting that you bring that up. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, maybe he unalives himself.
We went there.
And then Chihiro brings him back with Akka Suzaku.
I don't think Samura would be the type to unalive himself. But I do think you're onto something in regards to the Suzaku. I think that's been set up almost, perfectly.
Yeah, facts. Like, it's not the most exceptional blade in terms of like what we see. I mean, Sojo had a lightning dragon. Samura's got, coming in like a angel of death, and we just see like Chihiro doing very minimal things, but the impact in which he uses them is like flawless. Like he definitely has a different like attachment with N10, and I think later on there's going to be like a big reveal about Chihiro and N10 that there's maybe like Chihiro was born with a contract like all automatically to N10 or something like that, or just that's just a spitball, but I do think like their relationship as a a chanted blade and its wielder, I think is different than the others, because obviously we know N10 isn't attached to the original eternal contracts of the other like 6 blades. We do know that, but I think there's obviously something more, and Akka being used sparingly is just telling that there's something more with that later on. I think it's just to absorb the malediction to a sense. But there's a lot going on right now in the story. A lot of cool fights. I think the choreography is there. You mentioned the callback to the Sojo panel, and we get the fisheye lens, which just fire. Samura's like the perfect swordsman because he knows his strengths. He uses them, and he just basically puts Chihiro in a room where you see Samura's loaded the fuck up with Suzaku flames on the other side, and he's just waiting to hear like any movement from Chihiro. Chihiro, is basically all he can do is just ready up, and as soon as he makes a movement and he just gulps, the boy heard that throat and fucking attacked him. Yeah, I mean Chihiro didn't get one shot either, and this is a stronger Samura this time. He's back, he amped it up with Suzaku flames, and Chihiro blocked it. You gotta remember, Chihiro does have more time, like actual usage time with his blade than anyone else. Now that he has the AI White Purity style, he's not near Samura in sword skill, but maybe he can, his efficiency with the blade and like just his more compact movements, he might just squeak out a win. I mean, because I still don't see Samura making it out of this arc.
Man, I don't know what to expect in terms of the outcome for this fight. What I am looking forward to is more like diving into, once again, this ideological clash. That's why I like the callback to the tea time double spread, because we know what took place in that Chihiro Sojo fight. Essentially, they were able to communicate, right? And Chihiro was able to realize what Sojo was, the message he was trying to convey, right? And so I'm expecting to see something similar. We know that Chihiro already understands where Samura's coming from, right? I'm interested to see if we're gonna see another angle of that, or if we're gonna see more of Samura's, not just the decision to side with the Hishaku in order to free himself from guilt and release the contracts. Also the decision to not kill the bearers, because there's a lot of, like I said before, there's a lot of layers to kind of get there, and I'm really curious as of why he draws the line with himself, and I get the guilt, once again, like I get that, but to me it was easier to understand when it was like, we all gotta go, and to me that was easier to understand. For me, this is a bit more, I struggle to kind of grasp the mentality behind it, right? While at the same time understanding it, and that's why I keep saying I'm conflicted about it.
I do think we're gonna get them connected, or them reaching each other as like equal combatants, like reaching that understanding of each other, like you mentioned with Sojo and Chihiro. Because we still need to find out or get the flashback of when Shiba told Chihiro about the war. That's something that we still need to see. And I think in that moment would be the time where he tells Samura about like, here, Shiba told me what happened, and we get the flashback of that. And Samura, will tell him his like internal, like what his internal monologue was, like what his inner thoughts were like during those 3 years of like debating what's the right path to go. And to what you said, like it was a easier like pill to swallow when all the sword bearers, they were just gonna basically accept their fate. They had guilt, they all accepted their part in it for whatever reason, and that's just it stops there. But now that he's bringing them back, and he's basically being a martyr, like he's gonna just do it himself and punish the sword master, it makes me kind of think that there might be something more to the war, because it like Yura does state that Samura is the man who controlled the war. And that's important because one, we know, I think Tobimune is a recon weapon, with Owl and the ability to teleport and all that and see where everybody's at. So he was like the information center for the war, and he basically made it seem like he was like the commander. So I'm wondering if he holds the guilt because of that. He made a bad judgment call or something, and like I can see that. I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the nail. I think you put that way nicer than I was able to. But yeah, I think you got it. That's essentially what I'm talking about. And I hadn't even thought of cutting back to that conversation between Chihiro and Shiba. Hey man, once again, I think you might be cooking. I think you might be onto something, because it's the perfect kind of like, once again, in this clash of ideals, it is like they both have something to kind of hold on to and express to each other. So I could definitely see, those two things you mentioned. For Samura, I that's exactly what I want to see. I want to see more about the war. I do think there is something else that we still don't know that, like I said, will add to why exactly he wants to shoulder all the blame. So yeah, man. Yeah, once again, you really hit it on the nail with that one. And that, like, those are the only expectations I have for this fight. I guess I kind of take that back just real quick, because I also, the one thing I do want to see is power scaling consistency as well. And me, I've never been one to really like in detail or like hyper fixate on power scaling, but there's one thing that's really been emphasized a lot in these last couple of chapters, and it's that Samura is on a whole nother level. And I would hate to see Chihiro just tap into some otherworldly shit and reach that level. Like, I would like to see consistency here, and however this fight ends up, like whatever the outcome is, I just want it to be consistent to what we've seen and what we've been told, right? So yeah, that's also what I'm, because that has me a little bit nervous. Like, now there's no, earlier on, or like a couple of chapters back, we talked about, the three-way clash. It was Hirohiko, Chihiro, and Samura, and that was very interesting to talk about, because we understand that Samura is the absolute powerhouse, and between these two kind of young bloods, it would be interesting to see what could kind of happen there. But this is not that. This is the powerhouse against the guy that, yeah, he's got a couple of tricks up his sleeve, but from what we know, he's not anywhere near this other dude's level. So we'll see.
Even his sword style.
Yeah, all around.
I think the only way that Chihiro squeaks out of this with a win is gonna be Iori's intervention, like distracts Samura. Collateral damage to a civilian, makes Samura hesitate to use his abilities or fight Chihiro further. There's going to be an intervention from like an outside source. It's not going to be, Chihiro's not going to beat Samura 101. I don't think anyone believes that. This powerhouse of Samura, he just can't remain in the story long term, like being that powerhouse, because he makes it too easy for whatever side he's on.
Unless, well, I was just about to say, like, there could be the slim chance, and I don't know how I would feel about this, but that Chihiro succeeds in kind of, getting him on on his
But
side.
then it's too easy because then Samura can just pop over to Yura and then just. Well, I guess he has that like that pinky promise thing, so he can't really attack Yura till that.
Ooh, that's true. Yeah, one that's true. We actually, I maybe Samura can't even switch sides because of that pinky promise. So
Now, if he does die, and then he gets brought back through Akasuzaku, then he's like released of that pinky promise. He's released of like Toby Mune. And this would be like this is our theory section. We're wrapping up here since we talked about the chapter, but
yeah.
using Hakuri to, this when they all convene together, and he uses he puts Toby Mune in the storehouse. So now Chihiro has Kumiyuri and Toby Mune in the storehouse. He has Hakuri back. Samura is he doesn't want no part of it anymore. He just takes Iori and like goes somewhere. Like maybe that's the happy ending for Samura, that he gets to go be a regular guy in a different country or some shit. I don't know how possible that is, or how plausible, you know what I mean? But that's the
Yeah.
only happy ending I could see, because I can also see Yura coming, popping up and killing Samura himself here, like in a crazy like turn of events. That's Yura just decided to go handle
Ooh.
like while Chihiro's fighting, and he pops up there. I mean, there's so many things that can happen with like the teleportation, being just such a common thing in Kagurabachi. You just don't know what to expect.
I agree with you. I think if I had to kind of make a bet, I would say that yeah, he's gonna die. Ultimately, he's a tragic character, and I think that's the type of ending that suits him. Plus, Yori just awakened, and I expect her to stick around and do her thing. And I don't think that can, that path can coexist with Samura sticking around in the story, right? We don't know if Vazami's about to go out. Like ultimately, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, right? That, like you said, with the Yura, like some insane chain of events could unfold in the next couple of chapters, and Kagurabachi could be looking like a completely different story in a couple of chapters, at least in terms of where it's headed, right? Um, so yeah, I don't think anything would really be too crazy. But once again, I will say again, I do expect Samura to go out.
Like, bro, like it's crazy to think, and this is all the credit to Hokazono, that no, and this is a testament to his like writing ability, of the weekly engagement, keeping it the weekly experience fun. Don't know, it's a unique, like you just don't know where he's gonna go. We thought we weren't gonna see Samura for a while, like this clash, you know what I mean? Uruha comes back, we jump back to that. So Hokazono just has this way about him of hopping like between, places about like the important places, and we have no issues with it. A lot of times that is like cause for like the fandom to complain. Like, no, we don't want to see this. Like, remember JJK when it swapped from it went to the Takaba fight? Like, a lot of people didn't like that. And with this, it's more, it feels natural. Like Hokazono just naturally weaves like in and out of like these different places. And it just leads us to like suspicion of who is actually, fighting and where, because say like this crazy scenario of Samura dies here, and now Chihiro has Toby Mune like safe in the storehouse, so Hirohiko can't use it. But now he has a Toby Mune with no contract, and he has Uruha in his crew. Like, what's the conversation there? Like, yo, Uruha, you want another enchanted blade, brother? I got you. You got Toby Mune. You got the owl. You know what I mean? And they're like, you could be that guy again.
Yeah, and I don't think I see that happening.
Yeah,
But
I don't think.
ultimately, I see what you're getting at, though.
Yeah, I just
Like,
think that's like a conversation that might like. It's just like the potential of that being a possibility is crazy, because I think if Uruha just becomes another enchanted blade wielder, it's just it'd be a mistake on Hokazono's part, because then it just ruins Samura's like whole thing.
So one thing I would like to see, I think one thing that it would be really cool to see is kind of all these fights that are going on at the same time and could potentially be going on at the same time. So like right now we haven't cut back yet to the Azami Samurai Hishaku, right? We haven't really seen that since it was right about to kick off. The way this chapter ends makes me think that we're gonna stay here for a while in this kind of Enten Tobimune clash, but I would like to see like just like panels showing all these other fights occurring at the same time. And all these other fights to me would be like, you know, let's say Ro, like I said, he goes down to floors to get the sheath, and Kaguri's there or something, right? We know Uruha, he might have finished off the Kamunabi traders we saw last chapter, but from what we saw from the what is it, the transformation sorcerer, he was all bloodied up, right? Maybe we could see, regardless if it's them or not, Uruha's, you know, I would like to see Uruha fight, right? I guess that's the ultimate point. And it would be cool to see at least a chapter that has all these fights going on at the same time. Maybe we see what some of the you know, we get an update on some of the Kamunabi higher ups and maybe who they're fighting. Just once again, with all that's going on, I think one chapter where we see all these fights going on at the same time would be so cool for like the scale and the gravity of everything that's going on, and you know, hammering home that sense of like consequence for each and every outcome, right? Like maybe Chihiro wins but Azami dies, right? And like that's still something to deal with, right? And so like I think that sort of stuff is always cool to keep in the back of your head as everything is going down. So just one chapter, man, just one chapter of like multiple fights all going down at the same time, even if it's like just a one-off panel and then back to, you know, a one-off panel of each of these fights, and then we stay with Chihiro and some. I just be so cool to see, and I think the fan base would be like really excited. I think it would be like a once again just this feeling of like, oh fuck, like a lot is going on and we're seeing it like simultaneously. So yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up in regards to that, man. I don't think I've been a bit all over the place this episode. You know, I've realized anytime, you know, it comes down to Samura, like my thoughts are all over the place. And hey man, that might just be a testament to how good of a character he is, and once again like how layered and not simple.
Yeah, he's intricate. Yeah.
So yeah, so you know, I'll just blame it on Samura, right? Blame it on the blind guy. But yeah, man. Yeah, hopefully Samura dies soon and we don't gotta worry about it.
Yeah, I still think he's gonna die too. Do you think Uruha's gonna last? Like, you think he's gonna be like a mainstay in the story now, just as a regular swordsman?
I always think it's cheap to kill a character, revive him, and then just to kill him again, unless you keep him around for a while. So if Uruha dies, I'm expecting it to be like later in the story, after he's let's say quote unquote atoned, because
yeah, made peace with himself.
Yeah, because I think if Samura dies, I think that's also gonna have longing effects on Chihiro and Uruha. I ultimately I do think that Uruha would like to carry ultimately like a part of Samura's will, because once again they're all fighting towards the same thing, right? This dude Samura is just, he just struggles with himself and has decided to shoulder everything, but they all want the same thing. So once Samura dies, like nobody wants to see that, right? Like Chihiro's literally fighting him for that. So this is like the biggest unnecessary fight so far in Kagurabachi, and I'm not hating. Like it's the truth. It's just the truth.
It's an unfortunate fight. It's like an unfortunate fight, you know, because like it shouldn't have to be Chihiro versus Samura, or like if Chihiro's the one to put him down, you know.
And the truth is, they, like, when you think about it, they're wasting time. Like they could both be going at the Hishaku. Obviously, we know that the pinky promise with the the contract with Samura and Yura, like it's not exactly like that, but in theory, right? Ultimately, like that's what should be happening. Um, but I think
You
I
know,
was gonna say the last thing is that I think that adds like a human element of like, people are stubborn. Even people that are on the same side of things don't necessarily agree in their approach to it. So I think this is still very, it 100% makes sense. And that's why I'm not like, oh, boo, I don't want to see this fight. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, no, I think the people that are not getting why this fight is going down are kind of missing the point. Um, but yeah,
I think there's also like an oversight on like the Samura defenders too, because I've seen a lot of, just people giving their general thoughts, and issues or concerns with it. And their defense is always reading comprehension, this, that, or the other. It's not reading comprehension. That's just like a buzzword that people use now to like avoid actually getting into a discussion or a debate about something. I don't know, man. It's like Uruha's kind of a blank canvas. We don't know what he wants in life. We've never gotten that from him. Like, I think he is a vanilla enough character to where Hokazono can like sway him to like wherever he needs him to be. Like he wants to essentially be with Chihiro because of his like admiration for Kunishige. I could see him like maybe taking up being a more of an uncle to like Iori in a sense, like helping her out and being there for her if Samura does die. Like them getting closer, not like living with each other maybe, but him just taking kind of an uncle, like adopted uncle type of role or something, just to be there for her. So Uruha, I do think he's gonna stay in the story, and basically be him, Hakuri, and Chihiro. That sounds like a dope little team, though.
yeah, man, for sure. That's a unit right there. And by the way, Uruha does give like uncle vibes. So once again, you might be onto something.
Right? Like, I'm like, that's it. Hokazono basically gave us two sword bearers at the same time. But what he did was he made one super complex character and one vanilla character. Now, don't get me wrong, Uruha, I like Uruha. I like Uruha more than Samura, personally, subjectively. But like we don't see him have like any connections with the anyone on the outside. He doesn't talk about anything. His thing was he was given the people at the temple or at the spring sacrificed their life to give him a chance to escape. So he wanted to honor that by fighting Samura. Samura clapped him. Now he's brought back. So he just wants to I think he just wants to use this life to be there for Chihiro or, like I said, maybe Iori. But I mean, I want to hear what the comments think though. What Uruha's what his role is gonna be in the story. Because if he has a tragic death, like in this arc, I'm gonna feel so bad for him.
No, imagine the outcry.
As well, we want to not format our episodes. We want to just kind of have a free conversation discussion like we do. That's it's a laid back thing. But at the end of every video, we want to have like a segment, basically. That way it transitions us out of the video a little smoother, and it also gets engagement with you guys. We get to hear your words, and we are real close to having guest episodes, so be on the lookout for that. People who engage with us in the comments and do they participate in the questions that we ask, because it may be a wild ass question like what size shoe you think Uruha wears, or it could be something deep like what do you think Uruha's character is going to be going forward. But the people who engage with us and they participate in those questions, those are the people that we're more likely to ask to come on the episode. And we also need a name for this segment, so if you have any names, like we were talking about, since we're the Hishaku, the $50 and a lighter segment, something playing off of that. Other than that, I mean, I guess so. The question we'll ask today is, we'll just keep it simple since I already said it, is what do you think Uruha's story is going to be now that he's revived? Where do you think where do you think he goes? What do you think his conclusion will be? You know, just whatever you think. It could be, you know, as detailed as you want, or as you know, just a short, simple thing. You can even meme, and me and him will pick like responses that we like, and we'll, you know, we'll actually shout them out in the next episode, and then we'll give you another question, and you know, keep going. But I mean, that'll do it for us. Dice, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, guys, leave your thoughts below. Leave your questions. We'll be going through them. You know, we'll pick a select few, and we'll be going through them at the end of the episodes and see what comes out of that.
Yeah, you know, we appreciate y'all as always. You know, I get so hyped when we see the engagement. It makes me want to.
No, fuck that.
But all right, y'all. Y'all have a good week. Till next chapter 83. Peace. Say bye to the people,
I didn't
Dice.
even say peace, peace. I'm so out of it today, bro. Peace.